All right, everyone, welcome to CEOs Don't Wait Till January 1st. This Masterclass series, we're going to spend 3 days together, and we're going to look at how do CEOs measure your past growth, how do they plan their next breakthrough, and how do you hit every God-given goal you set from now on? Who is here for that? If you are here and in the room, please say here in the chat so I know you're here. I want you to be active and engaged over there because that helps me to kind of read the room and what you guys are needing and things like that as well. There are going to be some opportunities for you to respond to things that I'm saying directly or just amens or whatever. I love those things. Here, yay. So yes. Donita is also dropping the playbook in the chat. If you do not have the CEOs Don't Wait Till January 1st playbook yet, it is not required. You will need something to write with and something to write on. But if you have the playbook, it's going to be really easy for you to walk right through what we are doing today. So go ahead and if you have a printer nearby, print it. Great. If not, don't worry about it. You can just simply use a piece of paper or have it up on a screen. Just don't let it be a distraction, but we'll be dropping that playbook as we go in there. And I just want to welcome you guys. This is going to be a 3-day crash course in what I call growth mapping. You may have never heard of growth mapping before, but let me tell you, it is the fastest way to hit your goals any time of year. Okay, any time of year. So you don't have to do this just at the end of a year or beginning of a year. This is literally what we should be doing all year long so that we don't get to this point in the year feeling how? Behind, right? And I have a feeling, and this is not just me saying this, but it's because I've actually seen this, that this will be more valuable than the last 3 things you paid for in your business. So I want you to show up like with that kind of value in mind, right? I want you to close your tabs. You guys know I teach you inside my 12-month program how to have one main tab open and the one you're working on. So close the extra tabs. Turn your camera on if you can. I love seeing your faces. Be active in the chat, right? There is a reason why this is a live training. I did not pre-record this because here's what happens. You're more focused, you're more engaged, and you will get more results. Okay. And I also always offer live only bonuses. So there's incentive for you to be on live, but don't worry. If you are one of my replay peeps, I have you too. Okay. So again, if you don't have the playbook yet, Donita kind of keeps dropping that in the chat as we have more people coming in. So grab the playbook, print it if you can. If you can't, it's okay. But we're going to get to work today. And here's what I want to tell you. Welcome to the 1%. Because 99% of business owners think that they're too busy to do what we are going to do over the next 3 days, right? And I want you to know, this is not just going to be me talking at you. You are actually going to have time to meet with the Lord and to hear from him while we're together. Who would like some of that? Say me in the chat if you want to hear from the Lord, right? Like that's what we should be doing as CEOs. And we'll talk about what a CEO is in just a minute. So today is day 1. And our focus today is how to evaluate the past year in a way that helps you grow from it, not repeat it. How many of you would like to grow from 2025 instead of just repeat it? Maybe you had an amazing, say grow in the chat if that's you. Maybe you had an amazing 2025 and you're like, Lisa, if I could do this again, I would do it. Then tell us, I want to repeat this. But I bet most of us want to grow into the next year, right? So what we're doing today, what we're doing tomorrow on day 2, what we're doing on Thursday on day 3, can and will literally change you and your business. How can I tell you that? Because you're finally going to know how to growth map your way towards every God-given goal that you set in 2026 and from now on. Guaranteed success. Who is here for that this week, right? Say here in the chat if you haven't told me you're here already, okay? And this is why it's really important that you are here. We will be live at 1 Central Standard Time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There will be a replay that goes out each day. It is going to be on a private audio feed. So that way you don't have to sit in front of a screen and look at my face. You can put me in your earbuds or on the counter while you're driving around town or getting dinner ready or whatever that is. If you would like to get the replays and the links on your text instead of being buried in inbox, right? Then what I want you to do, if you didn't receive a text from me just a few minutes ago, then you need to text the word January, and Donita will drop this, to 815-321-0922. 815-321-0922. If you did not get a text from me just a couple of minutes ago, text the word January to that number, and you will be in the loop to get the replays and things like that. How many of you have way too many unread emails in your inbox and it's really easy to miss things, right? It like stresses me out when I see that number inside some people's red circles. But anyway, okay. So I won't ask how many numbers you have in there. I'll just tell you my future son-in-law had 14,000 when he was in my car the other day. And I was like, 14,000, why? At that point, you might as well close the account and just start a new one. Anyway, we'll do a whole training on inbox management and stuff like that in the new year. How about that? Okay, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to teach you how without a growth map, you will just end another year feeling like many business owners do right now. How do you, or maybe the people around you, maybe this isn't you, how do you think most business owners, small business owners, because we're not talking like Fortune 500 companies, right? We're small business owners, feel at the end of the year? I would love to hear in the chat, what would be maybe a word that is describing how you feel at the end of a year, right? You thought you had all this time, you had all these great dreams, goals, wishes, and then now you're at this point. Today is December 9th as we're doing this live, so I don't know what day it is when you're listening to a replay, but how might you describe either how you or how a lot of business owners around you might be feeling this time of year? Rushed, hurried, behind, disappointed? Yeah. Less than maybe? Discouraged, defeated, generally behind, disappointed, okay, sad, discouraged. Okay, now here's the thing. We're no longer going to feel that way. I'm going to show you some things today that's going to help you with that and tomorrow. Growth is the lifeblood of your business. Here's the truth. If you don't start seeing measurable growth over time and have a system and support to not only sustain it, but scale it, guess what? You're probably not going to be in business for very long, right? Most businesses go out of business because of cash flow, right? How many times have you said to yourself, is this even worth it? I'm putting in all this time, all this effort, all this heart, soul, blood, sweat, tears, and for what, right? So here's what I want to say to you. Before you spend another hour or $1 on a shiny new course or the latest tech tool, we are going to spend the next few days together looking at what you need to start with first. And speaking of what we need to start with first, you know what it is? We're going to go to the Lord. So we're going to do that, and then we will jump in. So Lord, we just come before you. And God, we just thank you for calling us into a relationship with you, for making that possible through the birth of your son, for him being Emmanuel, God with us. Lord, I pray that we would experience that in a deeper way this Advent season as we anticipate our celebration of that with friends and family. And Lord, as we come to the end of a year and we take time to look back at our business over the past year and then to look ahead and to think about what you might be calling us to grow towards in the next year, I pray that you would just be all over this process. I pray against the enemy who would love to point out all of our failings and the ways that we haven't met a standard that we've put out there, and that you would show us what's true and that you would lead us and guide us one step at a time. And so we just want to praise you in advance for the fruit that is going to come out of these next 3 days and the time beyond this, because it's all about producing more fruit for your glory. So thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for each person who's listening, whether live or on the replay. I pray that you will meet her right where she needs to be right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, with that in mind, I know that some of you may not know me, and maybe we haven't been hanging out for a long time. And so you might not have heard a little bit of my story. I'm going to kind of give a quick little version of it, just so you guys can know where I'm coming from. I always like to start my story by saying, so there I was in a doctor's office waiting for results, but I can honestly tell you, I didn't know how I got there, or at least I didn't know in that moment. So if you fast forward or fast rewind, I guess, to when I've always been a doer. Like I've always never not been doing. I've always been planning. I've always had a planner, assignment notebook, right? A to-do list, goals year after year. I'm a 1 on the Enneagram, if anybody else knows what they are. And a 1 is always like, I can do more and I can do better, right? So I was the girl who would show up and consume content, right? And if you told me that something is something I should be doing, I just add it to my list. I didn't make excuses. I didn't say I don't have time. I'm like, okay, if this is going to make me better or help me grow more, then just put it on there. The problem was, in order to keep up with all the things that were, piling up on my plate, not just as a business owner, but also as a wife, as a mom, as a ministry leader, as, someone who was very involved in her community, I had to keep up the pace, right? Like I had to keep going faster. But I was, in the meantime, finding my purpose and my value in all my doing and my checking boxes. Anyone else check the box and feels like that's where our value comes from? And the problem was I was really lacking true presence. Like I was in the room, but not really in the room. Yes, good. If it's not just me, yeah. And so I ignored what my mind was telling me. I had this should be guilt, right? I was ignoring what my body was telling me, that I always had tension in my shoulders and my neck and feeling this angst in my stomach. And I started ignoring this ball in my throat. And, of course you do like I should be drinking more water. I should chew my food a little bit, more, whatever. It didn't work. So I ignored it for over a year because who has time, right? And then one day I woke up and I was like, I had a cancer scare in my thyroid. I wonder if something's growing. So I promised my besties I'd go see a specialist. He did all kinds of testing and tried all kinds of things. Finally did a scope. And this was me sitting in his office now, right? And he sat me down. He's like, Lissa, I have really good news for you. There's nothing growing in your throat. He said, but the reason you feel like there's something in your throat all the time is because you have hystericus globus. Globus, like a globe, sensation of a ball. Hystericus, he's like, you're crazy. You just have anxiety about all the things you need to do and the time you have to do it in. And I'm happy to prescribe you a pill. I'm not against medication for mental health, but I knew for me it was going to be a Band-Aid. It would allow me to keep up the pace, to keep finding my purpose in my doing, and to not be fully present, right? And so for me, a doctor calling me crazy was literally my breaking point, right? And I wish I could say that everything changed that quickly. It didn't, because doers die hard. If you're a doer, you know what I mean. But God started getting a hold of my heart and started showing me that my busyness wasn't a disordered calendar or to-do list, or that I didn't have the right goals. It was that I had a disordered heart. I was chasing after my not enoughness. It was all about me, right? My time was not enough. My doing was not enough. I was not enough. It was like this slippery slope that we all go down. And God started to show me that my value is actually in who he says I am, not in what I do. Who can amen that? Who needs to hear that, right? Your value is in who God says you are, not in what you do, right? And I started to believe my time is enough and my doing is enough and I am enough, right? And I started to understand that my time and my calling were not really about me, but they were entrusted to me. It was something not for me just to manage, but for me to steward. And that there should be a healthy sense of productivity and profitability, which leads to a healthy presence. And I found that actually by doing less, I was actually producing more. And so now here we are. I'm on mission to help other busy Christian women like you who know that you are called to business, to help you stop managing time and start multiplying it. And how do we do that? We partner with the Lord, who can help us to do, because he's the one doing it, exceedingly abundantly beyond all we could ask or imagine for his glory. Ephesians 3:20. I was just in that scripture the other day, right? So I am Lissa Figgins. I'm a scaling strategist. I believe that time is not your biggest obstacle, no matter how it feels. It's your most valuable God-given opportunity to do exactly what God has called you to. And I believe that as a business owner, part of our impact is what we do with our business. And so I specialize in helping Christian women business owners build what I call the CEO essentials, the schedules, the systems, and the strategies. We create a framework, just like a trellis, right? A vine needs a trellis to grow on if it wants to produce fruit. We need the same thing in our business. We need this framework to scale your reach, to scale your revenue, to scale your results, because we're learning to scale our time. And what I teach is for all levels of business. So who in the room is a solopreneur? I want to see who's in the room. If you're a solopreneur, say solo, okay? And who in the room is here leading a team? Say team if you've got, maybe you've got some contractors, maybe you have some interns, maybe you have some other people who are working for you, okay? A lot of solopreneurs, okay? So let me ask you this. Where could your business be this time next year if you start going through the 4 phases of growth and one of them is adding people more than just you to click all those buttons? Jennifer's got a team, okay? So Jennifer can attest to, when you're not the only person clicking buttons, it's amazing how much more results you can create, okay? And you can do that if you are actually going to, number one, learn, and number 2, implement, because we don't just need more information, we need more implementation, what we're talking about over the next 3 days. Yay, you're building your team right now in her family. I love it. Emmy is employing her 14 children. She's about to have baby number 14 here in a few weeks to help with her business, and it's so beautiful. So the reason why I created what I'm teaching you guys today, the growth mapping method, is because I was the girl who was spending so much time setting goals and missing them over and over, right? Wasting time, wasting money, wasting presence, and not producing results. I was a busyness owner. So let's start with a definition. If you're taking notes, this is on the day 1 of your playbook. If you don't have the playbook in front of you, it's okay. Grab a piece of paper. If you're a note taker, we will be doing some reflection time, so you will for sure want something to take notes on when we get to that part. But what is a busyness owner? Actually, Nadine is here in the room. Nadine, I have to give you credit because it was one day coming off of a coaching call that Nadine said to me, Lissa, I think I'm a busyness owner. I had talked a lot about busyness, right? And she put this together, and I told her afterwards, I'm like, girl, I was up all night thinking about that term and what that means. So Nadine is the one that we can thank for this, but a busyness owner is I'm going to say woman because I'm sure there are guys too, but I only work with the girls, right? We are on the hamster wheel doing all the business things or the things we think we should, checking all the boxes, right? Filling our calendar with all kinds of fluff, thinking that that's being productive. I had that conversation with a CEO this week, but not really getting anywhere. Anybody ever tried running on a hamster wheel or watched a hamster in that little thing? They're just going in circles, right? Going nowhere. How many people feel like a business owner? I'm just going to say you are not alone if you do. Okay. This week, I'm going to help you start thinking like a CEO. And unlike the way the world defines it, in my world, we have defined CEO as a Christ-empowered operator, right? God has entrusted this business to you, but we don't do it on our own. He is our chairman of the board because we have to run everything by him. But guess what? We are the ones who are really at the helm, right, with his direction. And so my goal this week is to help you not just scale time as a business owner, right, but as a CEO. And I want to help you scale your RODI, your return on time invested. And I've actually created something called the RODI method, where we look at your outcomes, the ones you're seeing and the ones you're not seeing, so we can make strategic decisions about where to invest your time to grow and where not to. Okay, if we are not looking at our results, some of us don't want to hide from them, I know, right? Then we will just keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And what do they call that? Insanity, right? We are not going to be insane CEOs. We're going to be strategic CEOs, okay? So I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to say hello in the chat. If you're here live, this is one of the bonuses that happens only for people who are live in the room. So right now, take a minute and tell us in the chat what you do. What do you do? And if you want to tell us who it's for, specifically, if there's a specific type of person that you do, like go ahead and drop that in the chat because I want to know who is in the room. And you never know, your next client, your next connector, your next collaborator might be in the room. And I would also love to know how many years have you been in business? So I started my business in 2014. So we're going on 12 years. It has iterated and grown over the years. So it doesn't look the same as it did when I first started, but there's been some version of Lissa being, I was a business owner for a really long time. So I'll just say that. And then I learned all this and started stepping up as a CEO and started seeing the impact that had on my results. So tell us in the chat what you do and how long you've been in business. I would love to hear. So you can go ahead and drop that in the chat. And then again, feel free to save the chat at the end if you want to be able to circle back to somebody. Hey, who was the person? We just did this the other day. I was on a call and I was like, hey, who was the person that did this? And somebody else was in the room who knew that. And so we were able to make some connections and things like that. I'm all about strategic connections. So, all right. So as you guys are dropping that in there, we have to look back before we look ahead. This is key for CEOs. Business owners are not going to take the time to do this because they don't have time, right? They're just going to keep running into the next year or the holidays and then the next year and wonder why next year looks the same as this year or worse. Okay, so if you are like most business owners this time of year, you are feeling those words we said earlier, less than, behind, even with this like new year, new you energy, right? How many of us don't truly believe that things are actually going to be different, right? I bet a lot of us. So over the last couple of days, I've been taking some polls. And so each day I'm going to share with you the poll I took and the results I've gotten so far. I'm going to ask you guys to vote here if you're on live. So the first poll that I took was about looking back at 2025, how you would describe your experience with your 2025 goals. So here are your choices, A, B, or C. Ready? Choice A, I didn't reach many of my 2025 goals. Option B, I saw some of my 2025 goals happen. Or option C, I hit every single goal I set in 2025. Are you A, didn't reach many of them, B, I saw some of them happen, or C, I hit every single one? I would love to hear. Drop it in the chat where you are. Don't worry, I've gotten all answers in the poll that I put out on social as well as in the community and also inside of the emails, I guess that is. Sorry, my brain was thinking through things, which made me think about if you are not a member of the Redeem Her Time community yet, you want to head to, and Donita, I'll have you drop this in there, so let me say it out loud so you can type it, but it's redeemhertime.com/community. If you're not a member yet, redeemhertime.com/community. We have a free business directory. And guess what? I give you permission and direction to talk about what you do and what you offer any day of the week. I don't care. You don't have to wait till sales Saturday and only get it in the comments of that one post. Otherwise you get like put in timeout or something like that. Like you can talk about what you do every day of the week if you want to, right? Like, I think we should be talking about what we do. So if you're not a member already, go to redeemhertime.com/community and join us. Okay, let me check in the chat and see where we're ending up on that poll. B, 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 A, B, A, C plus. Okay, that's the first C I've seen. B, A. Okay, which was which? So A was I didn't reach many. B, I saw some. C, I hit every single goal. And it's not surprising because the polls that I did on those other places, I saw B the most. Most of you are saying, okay, Lissa, I hit some, but not all. Okay. And that's great, right? I had a few people say I didn't reach many, and until just now, I didn't have anybody say C. Okay. So most of that is not happening. In fact, I'm going to tell you guys something in just a minute that might surprise you. But first of all, here's what I want to tell you. Things have radically changed in business. Right? Well, maybe this is how it's always been, but did you know most people fall off their New Year's resolutions and goals by January 17th? It's actually called National Quitters Day. And those who make it beyond that day wind up getting so busy and distracted, they quit somewhere along the way without even realizing it, right? How many of you maybe didn't make it to January 17th, or you made it to March 17th, and then life happened and, whatever. So that's why over the next 3 days, we're flipping the script. I'm going to help you grow your business no matter how busy life gets, no matter what time of year it is, not because you're just more intentional with your goals and time. That is not a bad thing, but we want to be more strategic. Strategic means I'm looking at the outcome, not just the input. Okay? As business owners, you're only looking at the input, hoping for the outcome, right? But as CEOs, we're looking at the outcome because that's going to determine the input. Okay? And I just wanted to let you know, it's not entirely your fault if you have not been great at goals lately. Because if you've been listening to all the time management experts and the business growth gurus, they promised you this could be the year that you fill in the blank if you set the goal. But here's what I want to tell you. Setting the goal doesn't guarantee you get there. You wind up then missing the mark and making it mean something about you, your ability, your commitment, your calling. Maybe, but maybe not. So can I actually tell you what my answer is to that poll? You guys want to know? What did Alyssa do? The person who's teaching you how to hit your every God-given goal you set in 2026? Guess what? I was a B. I did not hit every goal I set in 2025. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay. There were some goals that I had to set down. So I actually started the year, if you've been in my world, you know this. I started 2025 with things already in motion for the It's Time conference. It started back in October of 2024 when I made the decision and I mapped out my vision with my event planner. In November of that year, I secured a venue in Nashville. In December, I confirmed all my speakers. In January, I built the landing page, the checkout sequence. February, I started promoting it. March, started selling tickets. April, I even started featuring speakers on the podcast. And I started a conference private podcast. And all along, I kept hearing this still small voice saying, maybe it's not time. But I ignored it because I thought that was just the enemy, right? Finally, I went to this conference on wisdom in April. And so after that conference, I finally, and honestly, let me just say this too. I was sitting in the conference so distracted by all the conference things around me, I could hardly hear what the speaker had to say because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do something like this in a couple months? So God finally got my attention. I finally stopped to really listen and seek him. And he told me to set it down. Can I tell you that in that moment, it did not feel great. But you know what I did feel at that time? So this was early May of 2025. I felt peace. And I knew in part the why then, but then over the rest of the year, it has become clearer and clearer why it was not time for that conference. Kind of interesting that the conference was called the It's Time Conference and it wasn't time for the It's Time Conference, right? God has a sense of humor. But here's the thing. I know that it's like a not never thing. It just wasn't a not now. So that was a goal that I had to set down, right? Some goals I sustained and I completed on time. So one of my major goals for 2025 was the Redeem Her Time website update. And so in Q1, I worked on the copy. And in Q2, I was going to work on the website. And it's really interesting because I actually wanted to do it back in Q4 of 2024. But that was when I was focused on the conference, right? And it was actually a good thing because God had more that he wanted to show me that needed to be on the website that wouldn't have been there if I would have started it in Q4. So when Q1 and Q2 came, I mapped out those goals. I hired some experts and we got her done by June. And if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out at redeemhertime.com. And let me just say, it felt really good to see that happen. And then I had, some goals I had to set down, some goals I sustained and made happen, and some goals were a surprise, like CEO Focus, which is my 12-week coaching program I'll tell you guys about this week. Because prior to Q3 of this year, I only had my 12-month coaching program offer. Now, it's amazing, but it wasn't growing like I had hoped. And so over the summer, I actually tried something, maybe you remember me talking about it, called Summertime CEO. Can I be honest? I had 0 takers. Okay, so in July, I renamed it CEO Focus, and I had 3 people jump in. Okay, then in late August, I hosted a multi-day masterclass series like this. I actually was leading to my 12-month program. Guess what? No takers. And then when I followed up, I started switching and inviting people into the 12-week CEO Focus program. And guess what? I brought in 37 new clients in less than 2 months. And they started getting results. So did I start 2025 going, I'm going to launch CEO Focus? No. So that goal was a surprise. So that's what I want to say is that if you didn't hit all of your goals, it doesn't necessarily mean something bad. There are reasons why. The timing, Carolyn, may have been why people did it, right? Like, again, I'm not shaming, blaming, or whatever myself. I'm just going, look at the process of goals. Sometimes we start them and we have to set them down. Sometimes they're the ones we're supposed to sustain until we get there. And sometimes there are surprises along the way the Lord brings that we didn't even see coming, right? And what I love is that people are getting results inside there. In fact, Lorian is here today. Lorian, I remember her telling us 2 weeks into CEO Focus, she goes, I've gotten more done in 2 weeks than the last 6 months, right? And Carolyn, who just was talking about why she didn't jump in the summer, she did jump in. And in November, when she shared her CEO praise, she said, I can't believe all that I got accomplished this month. It feels like all of the building and the chaos I've done for the last 3 years is finally clicking into place, right? Like, I love that. So, like, this is why most business owners don't hit their goals. I'm gonna tell you right now. Ready? Because you don't have a growth mapping system and support to know exactly where you're going, how to get there, and guess what? How to adapt as life happens along the way. And so some of you are going to hear what we talk about over the next 3 days, and you're going to think, oh my goodness, Lissa, where have you been all of my life or all this past year? This is what I needed. But we all know what happens when we get off a live or finish a replay, right? We get busy and distracted. Ring, ding, ping, right? This thing becomes like, right? And this all becomes one more thing we should do, but we don't. Has anyone been there, right? That's why I'm not going to leave you there. And I will be inviting you this week into CEO Focus. What we do inside CEO Focus is we actually get into the nitty gritty of what we're talking about this week. We help you set clear goals. We help you create a simple plan, and we help you execute the plan so you see measurable results in 12 weeks or less using my growth mapping process. Because there are way too many business owners out there setting goals. I want to have a consistent 10K months this next year. I want to serve 100 new clients. I want to get 100,000 downloads, right? Fill in the blank with whatever your goal is. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But you don't have any roadmap to get there or the support to keep you on track. Hello, no wonder most people are missing their goals, right? And so I'm going to show you guys this week, we're going to be walking through the key 3, which are your one thing focus, a 12-week growth map, and WHAM, weekly accountability meetings. And so at any time during our 3 days live together, or if you're one of my replay people and you're like, all right, I'm in, let's do this, you can head to redeemhertime.com/focus. Donita's going to drop that in the chat and jump in. There is no day you have to join. There will be some specials and stuff like that come along that I'll tell you about, right? But essentially what CEO Focus is, it is, I believe, the best time scaling, result scaling program on the planet for Christian women business owners who want to scale their impact. And it's super accessible and it's super affordable. And it's actually going to give you the accountability that you need with real-time support that you've always wished for, but you didn't find somewhere else. In fact, remember when I told you I only was offering the 12-month program prior to this coming out in July? This actually was only available to people who were paying to be in my bigger program or paying to work with me one-on-one. But because I saw that so many business owners were on the hamster wheel, I was like, this is the thing that's going to get them off the hamster wheel and get them seeing measurable results. And I made it so that you can access it for $97 a month, okay? And I'm going to show you some of the other ways that you can save some more and stuff like that. But I also want to let you know, I do have live-only bonuses. So if you join us by midnight on Thursday, so I'm going to give you day 1, day 2, day 3, you will get a bonus of a personalized coaching on your growth map plan for 2026. You're going to submit it to me. You're then going to receive a detailed video coaching you through how to refine your goals, how to strengthen your goals, and how to guarantee your goal success, so that you hit every goal that God puts in front of you in 2026. Okay, the value of that is the price of the entire 12-week program. And there are going to be some extra bonuses and things like that. And as long as you join us by next Tuesday, the 16th, you are going to get a ticket to an exclusive workshop I'm hosting called the Kingdom Vision Board Workshop with my friend and vision board expert, Lisa Hendrick. right? And I asked her to tell me, like, how can I like let people know like how valuable this is, right? And so here's what she asked me to share with you. Successful people know how to set goals, but kingdom-minded people know how to surrender them. So in this interactive session, Lisa is going to guide us through how to listen to God's voice, how to quiet the noise of distraction, how to create a vision that's anchored in scripture, not striving. It will help you make a decision to choose the precision of God's vision for your life. You hear all the shuns in there? I love it, right? So if you are already a CEO, focus, or impact client, you get access. And anybody else who comes in by the 16th, that's happening, I think it's like at 12 o'clock that day. I have to check my calendar. You will get to join us as well, okay? That is an extra special thing that we are doing. So, all right. Yes, so good. I love pouring in the bonuses because it's all about like, how can I help you get better, faster results? So let's talk about how to measure your results in 2025. I want to show you a meme. I've literally had this meme saved on my desktop for months and was waiting for the time to share it. And today is the share. Today is the opportunity to share this. So let me get to the screen where it is and show you this meme. Okay, can you see this? Here's what it says for those of you who are listening. Okay, look at the look on his face, right? When you've been working on your business, quote unquote, all year, but haven't looked at your numbers. Wait, you guys are getting paid? Does anybody else feel like that? Or you're getting paid how much, right? I mean, hopefully you're getting paid something. You're not just working for free, but a lot of times in business, you've got that season where you're not really making much of anything, or you're not making enough that's, compensation for what you're putting in, right? CEOs know their numbers. CEOs are not afraid to measure, to track, and to evaluate your ROTI, your return on time invested, because that is being a wise CEO. I guarantee right now, at this time in the year, there is not a Fortune 500 CEO on the planet who isn't daily looking at their numbers, who isn't regularly evaluating what worked and what didn't, and who isn't already setting up goals for how to grow in 2026. And you know what else they're not doing? They're not making those numbers mean something about them unless they don't grow from it, right? So we are going to be CEOs. We are going to get curious, and then we're going to get strategic, okay? I want to see that in the chat. Curious. And then we're going to get strategic, okay? We got to get curious first and say, that's what we're doing today. We're looking back, okay? But before we do that, there are two ways to look back at your growth. So if you're taking notes, this is the next section on the day one. There is a book called The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And I'm about to give you the cliff notes so you don't have to buy the book, okay? So how many people read the book? Anybody read the book, The Gap and the Gain, or listened to it on audiobook? I'm just curious if anybody has. Okay, I took this right off their description on Amazon, okay? So here's what they say. Most people, especially highly ambitious people, that's us, are unhappy because of how they measure their progress. We all have an ideal, right? A moving target that is always out of reach. When we measure ourselves against that ideal, we're in the gap. However, when we measure ourselves against our previous selves, we're in the gain. I like to think about it this way. You have a choice. I mean, I haven't had much of my water to drink, but I have a choice to look at this as half full, all the goals I didn't hit, right? Which leaves us feeling less than and behind, or half empty. Sorry, half empty was the first one I said. Half full, all the goals I did reach, right? Making me feel accomplished and successful. Which perspective do you think is going to help you grow as a CEO in the next year and not repeat this one? Having a gap perspective or having a gain perspective? Drop that in the chat. Which type of mindset or perspective is going to help you grow as a CEO into the next year and not repeat the last one? If you're looking at the gaps or you're looking at the gain, gain, right? But how easily do we naturally look at the gain, right? We look at how far we haven't come versus how far we have. So what if you didn't give yourself all year to try to hit all the goals you set and focus on this huge gap between where you are and where you wanted to be because you gave yourself till December? But what if you actually learned how to break down your goals into quarterly focuses so that you crossed a finish line every 12 weeks? Do you think that might make it easier to keep going throughout the year? Yes, because if you give yourself so much time, or your goals are so big that it takes you so much time, you're going to feel like you are always chugging. I think I can, right? But if we can set goals that like, oh my goodness, I can cross the finish line. Number one, I can see it 12 weeks out. So that's going to keep me going because I don't feel like I have all this time. And what happens in a race, I don't know if anybody here is a runner, you ran track and field or cross country. When you see the finish line, it's like it didn't matter how tired you were like 3 steps ago. As soon as you see that finish line, what happens? You're like, all right, let's go, right? And so that's what we need to start doing in our businesses is really looking at our goals and our timelines differently. And that's what I teach you inside of CEO Focus. Instead of a 12-month goal, I teach you how to have 12-week goals, right? And then we build in a 13th week to rest, because you have to rest after a race, to reflect, exactly what we're doing right now, and then to reset, like where am I going next? And what changes am I going to make, or updates or whatever, or things like that, right? And so what, again, for those of you who come in while we're doing this workshop, so if you come in by Thursday, I'm going to help you take those 12 months, that 12-month growth map, and we're going to start breaking it down into your 4 12-week focuses, your 4 12-week timelines. And I'll talk with you guys a little bit when we talk about goal setting tomorrow, depending on the types of goals you have, how to actually do that, okay? But I will personalize and customize a review for you when we do that. And then once you know where you're going, you've got the one thing focus, then you've got this growth map for how to get there in 12 weeks. Now you just need the weekly accountability meetings to keep you going, right? And there was a CEO who shared on our call, our WAM this week. She's like, this is the, and I was going to actually share her testimonial tomorrow, but it's already come out of my mouth, so you might hear it twice. She's like, oh my goodness, I've never planned this far in advance before and actually stuck with it. How many of us, it's like you're just trying to get through the next week or the next day, and then we wonder why we're not hitting our goals and why we're not seeing growth and things like that. So we're going to start shifting that, because we're going to start going not 12 months, 12 weeks. We're going to use the growth mapping method to get you there. Okay. Okay. So are you ready to do what 99% of people won't, because you are in the top 1%? If so, say 1% or 1 in the chat, right? If you're here to be part of the 1%, let me know. Let me know you're still with me. Okay. Because we're actually going to start writing some stuff down here in just a minute. We are going to do some CEO reflection. Because looking at where you've been, and I know there are some of you in the room, because I know a lot of your businesses and I know your journeys, where you have actually made some big pivots or shifts or changed direction this year. So I want you to know, like, that is a really essential part of doing what we're doing today, is looking at how the Lord has redirected your path over the past year. Some of you, you're doing the same thing you were doing a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Okay. So you keep that in mind as you're doing it, right? But when we look at where we've been, it helps us shape what needs to shift moving forward. Because when we can see where we've been and where we haven't been, and what results we see and what results we don't see, now we can make those strategic CEO decisions. Okay? So before we look ahead to 2026, we are going to pause and look back. But we're not going to do it the way the world does, with hustle or hustle regret. Anyone ever feel that, right? I should have been doing more. I should have been working a little bit harder this year. You kind of get to this point, you're like, well, okay, maybe next year. And definitely not with shame or blame. Okay? Pinky promised me. No shame or blame. It's not allowed around here. Okay? We are going to look back at the kingdom way with honesty, because we need to be honest, with humility, and with hope. Okay? Because this is actually going to help us, not make us feel worse about ourselves. And before we do that, I want to take you guys to a verse in Lamentations that really, I believe, captures this perfectly. Now, if you know anything about me, I always say context is king. We don't just pull a verse out and make it mean we want it to. Okay? So the book of Lamentations was written during a season when God's people had experienced major loss. They were probably seeing a lot of gap, right? Everything familiar was gone. Everything that they were used to, their routines, their plans, their systems, everything's gone, right? And right in the middle of all that grief, in chapter 3, the author of Lamentation remembers something really important. And I bet this is a verse you know. God's mercies are new every morning. His faithfulness never ends, right? Like he has this reminder, and we find this a lot of times in the Psalms, right? Where David is like lamenting the enemies and the things that are happening. Right now, I've just finished watching season 2 last night of The House of David, right? And Saul is literally, after him, right? And he's like lamenting all these things happening and the enemies that's coming and all that stuff. And it's like almost like in the middle of that train of thought, he has this like reminder, like, but the Lord is with me, right? But God is on the throne. Like it's this like reminder of like, okay, but I want to go back to what's true about who God is and what he says, right? And so right after this part where, we hear this, God's mercies are new every morning, comes this invitation from Lamentations 3:40. Lamentations 3 verse 40, which says, let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. I want you to notice, let us. Does that sound like a heavy-handed command or a shame on you type thing? No, it's like this loving invitation to pause, to examine, and to realign, right? Which is such a beautiful invitation. I love how the Lord is so gentle with us, even though we might need a swift kick in the pants, right? Like he gives us those gentle invitations. And for us as CEOs, as Christ-empowered operators, This process in Lamentations 3:40 becomes the foundation of evaluating the past year, right? So let's look at it real quick. Let us examine our ways. Like, this is our permission slip to take an honest look at the past year. What worked? What didn't? Where did you grow? Where did you stall? Where did you say yes that God never asked you to say yes to? And where did you say no that God was actually asking you to step into? And remember, this isn't about perfect execution. It's about an awareness of the Lord, right? And if we're walking in his ways. The second part talks about and test them. That means evaluating your decisions, your rhythms, your strategies, your outcome, your roadie, right? Not against hustle culture, but against what are the priorities of heaven. Did your choices in 2025 lead you towards margin, peace, and purpose, or away from them? Were you stewarding your time, or were you scattering it? Like, we have to go and test those things, and then let us return to the Lord. And this is really the heart of the verse, because reflection is never the end goal. Right? If you only drove your car by looking in your rearview mirror, you probably are going to have an accident, and you're probably not going to end up where you want to go, right? Like, there is value in looking back, but did you notice the rearview mirror is like a fraction of the size of the windshield, right? Because yes, we need to look back, but we're not supposed to focus and stay there, right? And so reflection is never the end goal. Realignment is. And so that is why we're going to do what we're about to do. We're going to look back so that we can move forward with God, not ahead of him. How many of you are like me? Okay, God, can you just stamp this here? And then I'm off and running and like, hoping that you're behind me somewhere. Like, nope, we're supposed to be like in step with him, right? And this is why CEOs don't wait till January 1st to get realigned. We evaluate early. We recalibrate early. So that way, right, we know what God is wanting us to do in this. We step into the next season. And that's really where surrender comes. So I just want to like speak a prayer over us before we actually start writing some things down. Okay? So Lord, would you show each woman listening today what you grew in her this year? And Lord, would you show her what you pruned? Right? There's a song that just came off my worship playlist this morning about like, Lord, prune anything in me that is getting in the way of fruitfulness. I know it's a little painful in the process, but it is so necessary. Like, and Lord, will you reveal where she has walked with you and where she has drifted? And will you highlight to her what you want her to release and what you want her to carry into 2026? And before we get into page 2 of our CEOs Don't Wait Till January 1st playbook, if there's anything that you felt like the Lord was saying to you through what I just shared through that verse and that little reflection, let me just go ahead and copy and paste the reflection into the chat so that way you can see it. Go ahead and write that down where it says, let us examine our ways. If you have room there, you might not have room there. So if not, that's okay. Just put it somewhere else. What might be God saying to you even now? Okay, are you ready to do some CEO reflection on 2025 with the Lord? Okay, I'm about to give you some questions. Here's the main question we're looking to answer. It's not necessarily written down on your paper, so you can write it at the top, right under where it says Day 1, Evaluate 2025. The main question we're looking to answer is why 2025 did or didn't produce the fruit you prayed for. Why 2025 did or didn't produce the fruit you prayed for. Okay? And so I'm going to give you a couple of questions. I'm actually going to turn on a song to give you some time to think about these. Let me grab these. I'm going to drop these in the chat because I know you guys like to be able to see them and not just hear them. If you're listening to the replay, you're just going to have to listen to my voice here in a minute. Okay, and again, these are not exhaustive questions. When I give you sample questions, they are just to get you going. Number one, don't feel like you have to answer every question, but there are reasons why I put these 3 questions in there. And number 2, it's okay if like other ideas or thoughts come up because of this, okay? Just a springboard. Okay, so the first one is, who were you as a CEO in 2025? I'm going to encourage you to write down 3 words that described, maybe you're like, I wasn't a CEO, I was a business owner, okay? Right, but write down 3 words that are going to, yes, each page is a different day. So page 1, like it's going to be front and back for day 1, front and back for day 2, front and back for day 3. But it doesn't matter. Like I said, you can just use a piece of paper. Okay. Who were you as a CEO in 2025? Write down 3 to 5 words. Then I want you to think about the goals you set for 2025. the goals you set for 2025. And I give you 2 columns, okay? You're going to, the ones you actually hit in 2025, you're going to put in the goals hit column. And the goals you missed, you're going to put in the goals missed. And right now, don't make it mean anything because we're going to talk through that in just a minute, okay? And then next to each one of those goals, you can jot what results showed up or didn't show up because of that. Okay, so who were you as a CEO in 2025? Write down 3 to 5 words maybe. Then I want you to take the goals from 2025 that you set, or maybe you had a surprise one like I did, right? What goals in 2025 did you reach? Did you hit? What goals did you miss? And what results showed up or didn't show up because of those? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit play on a song that will give us some nice background noise, and then we can spend some time journaling. Make sure I've got that ready. There we go. Okay. I know that there's probably more that you could be writing right now. And so I want you to know, like, this is going to be a to be continued thing with the Lord. And we'll talk about that at the end here. But I want to get into where the real CEO work starts. Are you guys ready? Okay. And that is in asking the question, why? Why did you hit the goals you did this year? And why did you not hit the goals you didn't this year? And again, no shame, no blame, no judgment. I want you just to notice. And we're going to talk about a few different reasons here, right? And you even heard when I shared my examples, like if it was a goal that God clearly took away because it was not his will or his time, like my It's Time conference goal, then that is still a win. Why? Because you listened to the Lord's voice and you obeyed, and anything else would have been a failure. Okay? So again, it's how are we approaching? Even looking at the fact that I didn't hit this goal, right? If it was because the Lord said, this is not the time for this, then I call that a win. You did hit the goal of laying down the goal, right? Okay? If in good faith you worked consistently towards a goal that you know God put in front of you and you didn't reach it or reach it yet, I want you also to know that is not a failure. What gains did you make even if you didn't cross whatever finish line you thought you should have crossed by a certain time point? And more importantly, who did you become in the process over those 12 months or over those weeks or whatever it was? And how will you continue to faithfully do your part until? But for a lot of us, I want you to kind of rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. How well were you stewarding your time, stewarding your clients, stewarding your offers, stewarding your focus? That may tell you maybe why you didn't hit some goals. Again, not shaming, just noticing, wow, okay, yeah, I was like a 3 this year in those areas. Okay, what can we do to move you to like a 6, 7, or 8? Or maybe you were a 6 and you're like, okay, yeah, okay, now I see why I was a B. How could I move to a 7, 8, 9, right? I want you to think about where did you stay focused and where did you drift? Maybe it was a certain goal that you were focused on or drifted on. Maybe it was a certain time of the year where you were more focused and where you drifted. Like pay attention to the things that were going on and just learn from them, right? We want to learn from them. That's what CEOs do. We don't just look at a number and say, well, maybe better luck next year. We don't grow from that, right? It is a win if you can grow from why it happened or why it didn't happen. And sometimes it's a little painful to look at the truth, but guaranteed looking at the truth is always going to help you move forward. Okay? Now, chances are it might be different things for different goals, okay? So you may have different things that you're going to jot down as you're reflecting on this with the Lord, but chances are, if you're honest, you didn't reach your 2025 goals because of one of 3 reasons, okay? And there's a spot for you to jot each of these down at the bottom of page 2. Okay? Reason number 1, you did not have a clear, measurable goal. You did not have a clear, measurable goal. Now, that could be because of a couple of things. Maybe you swore off goals altogether because they feel too defeating. Anyone in that case? Maybe you haven't done goals for a while because you're like, it's not even worth it. I always feel bad. Why do I bother? You know, it just makes me focus on the doing and not the being, whatever. It doesn't matter why. Maybe you just didn't even have a goal. Okay, then that's why you didn't hit it. Or maybe you set so many goals, right? So you didn't have a clear, measurable goal. Or maybe they were too pie in the sky that you lost sight of them, or you set yourself up for failure because they were unreachable, or they were just so general and vague. Like, how do I know if I'm healthier? That doesn't help anybody, right? So maybe you had too many you were chasing, or maybe they were so far off, but either way, right? You're probably not going to hit them. Big, huge pie in the sky. Okay, yeah, so notice that, right? Guess what? That's a fixable problem, okay? And if the goal problem was I had too many goals, which is what most people do, most business owners I find are not doing goals. They're setting too many. And like the Russian proverb says, if you chase 2 squirrels, you won't catch either one. The problem is most business owners are not chasing 2. We're chasing 22 or 202. Can I get an amen, right? I want to ask you how many goals or how many things you were chasing this year, right? Think about it I always like to put things in road trip analogies. If you want to go on a road trip and you don't decide on a specific destination, guess what that is? A joyride, not a road trip. And you know what it is about joyrides? They always cost you more time, money, and energy. Sure, it might be fun if you don't really want to get anywhere. But if you do, it's going to be really hard to get there. So when it comes to your business in 2025, did you have a clear, measurable goal? Or was it more of a free-for-all joyride that was more frustrating than enjoyable and cost you more than you wanted to? Okay, that's reason number 1. Reason number 2, you might have had a clear, measurable goal, but then maybe you didn't have a simple to follow roadmap to get there in a reasonable period of time. Maybe you set the goal. Maybe you even wrote it down. Maybe you even put it on your vision board and looked and prayed about it every single day. But if you didn't have a doable, I can follow this step-by-step map to get from where you started to where you wanted to be, chances are you didn't get very far, or you just barely got started before you got distracted, detoured, or discouraged because you gave yourself way too much time. Back to our road trip analogy. How many of you, I know most of my girls are midlife people, you remember like back in the day when we didn't have a GPS that talked to us when we drove, like you actually had to like either read a map or, heaven forbid, look at the map before you left the house and know where you were going? Like, it wasn't like, you know, we get in the car now and we depend on Siri to, or whoever it is, right, to tell us where to go and hope that they're programmed right, or we're going to end up in the wrong place because we literally don't know how to get where we need to go, right? So if you didn't read the map before you got in the car, or didn't stop to look at the map when you didn't know where you were, are you going to get where you want to be? Probably not, right? And you might be driving in circles. My first job out of college, because I'd gone to school to be a teacher, so I already had a teaching job like solidified. I'd already been hired, but I had to fill the gap in the summer. So I worked for Pathfinder Express. It was like MapQuest before MapQuest existed, kind of like Amico Motor Club back in the day, where people would call in and be like, Lissa, I'm starting in blank d blank, and I want to go to blank d blank, and I want the most direct route. I would plug it in my computer, print it out, put it in an envelope, and mail it to them before they left on their trip. Do you remember the days, right? Then you could go on MapQuest and print it out yourself, and now we don't even need that. We just put our phone, plug in and whatever. So, but, right, like, and I had people who would call me on the side of the road. It wasn't technically my job to help them figure out how to get back on track, but like, they would call me and I'm not going to like leave them hanging. So I'm like, okay, where are you? Where do you want to go? And so if they wanted to hit certain sites along the way, maybe they wanted a scenic route. Maybe there were certain stops they wanted to make. I would plug those in. So they had a, turn by turn directions for how to get there. So go back to our business. If you don't have turn by turn directions of how to get from where you are to this goal you want to hit, no wonder you're not getting there. Or if you gave yourself all of 2025, guess what? You are going to get distracted somewhere along the way. You are going to get detoured. You are going to get discouraged, and you're going to be off in the ditch. Okay. So maybe you gave yourself too much time, or you just didn't have a clear goal. Okay. Reason number 3, maybe you had a clear measurable goal. Maybe you had a simple to follow roadmap, but maybe you didn't have somebody in the passenger seat, right? You didn't have consistent support to keep you going until you got there. Because here's the thing about a road trip. Just having a map doesn't mean you get to your destination. Because what happens? I guarantee there are going to be, unless you're like driving a mile down the road, and even then you might have this, there will be some obstacles or other opportunities that come up along the way. Can anyone say hello, Buc-ee's, right? Like all of a sudden now you're pulling off and you just spent 30 minutes because Buc-ee's was there calling your name, right? This is why having someone in the passenger seat who knows where you want to go and why you want to go there, that's going to be essential to helping you stay on the road or to adapt and adjust when you run into construction or traffic or tourist traps, right? The same thing, little did I know that my job was going to help me with CEOs, right? It's so crazy how God grows us, right? The same thing is true of your goal in your business. If left to yourself, how many of you are amazing? You set a goal, you keep yourself on track, and you always get there. If you were, you would have been telling me C, right? I think one person said C+, and I don't know if that means you think you're like C to the nth degree or you were like kind of barely getting to C. But anyway, it's very easy left to ourselves to let ourselves off the hook, to make excuses, to quietly quit, get caught up in tyranny of the urgent, right? And again, if the Lord is the one, he should be the one in the passenger seat, right? No, well, actually, he should be the one behind the wheel. But anyway, we know the whole thing, Jesus, take the wheel. But we need people alongside us to be like, but Lissa, you said you were going to the beach. Why are you turning off to the mountain? Because everything in your suitcase is for the beach, not for the mountain, right? Like somebody to help keep you on track. So I want you to really look at, as you're thinking about this, and we're going to wrap things up here, and then I'll leave some time for some Q&A for those of you guys who are on live. But as you're going back and you're thinking more about who you were as a CEO this year, about what goals you hit and what goals you missed, about why or why not in those 3 reasons I gave you, you didn't have clear goals, you didn't have a roadmap to get there, you didn't have support to keep you on track along the way, right? I want you paying attention to what were some of the factors for you, right? So do the things that helped you do what God called you to do it more, right? Do it again, do it more, right? Figure out how to double down on that. But the things that you weren't doing or that you could have been doing that would have helped you there, those are the things we want to start changing or start adding. And I'm not just saying we need to add more and more and more. In fact, one of the things the Lord has led me to this year is slowing down and simplifying a lot of things, right? So maybe that's what he's calling you to do, is just to do some pruning and do some simplifying. Maybe it was just that you actually just had way too much on your plate. And then you get to this time in the year and you're like, yeah, and I didn't hit my goal because of that. So what I want to show you, I've talked a little bit about this, and I want to actually show you a visual, because if you're like me, you're a visual person. So I'm going to get to my share. Oops, hold on. Clicked on the wrong button, so give me a second. Okay, so I want to share with you guys a little bit about CEO Focus. And let me go to the, hang on a second. There we go. Okay, a little bit about what the growth mapping method that I've been talking about that can help you. So if you didn't see 2025 exactly the way you want it to be, good news. That's what CEO Focus is for. That's what the key 3, my growth mapping method, will help you to do. The first thing we do is we identify exactly where you're going. A one thing focus. Now we'll talk about tomorrow. We're going to start setting goals, okay? But when I say a one thing focus, it could be one thing for the whole year, for example, and I'll share this example tomorrow. 2024, it was the planner. It was the Redeem Her Time Planner. Literally the entire year was broken down into 4 sections, and I'll walk you through that next week. This year, it's been a little bit more on like this series of masterclasses, right? So it's been a way that I've been bringing people into, the programs and stuff that I have. So one thing focus is the first part. We have to know where we're going and not try to go in 10 different directions at once. The second part of the key 3 is a 12-week growth map. We have to know step by step how to get from where we are to where we want to be, right? And again, I'm just going to tell you guys this up front. I always say do it in pencil and have a big pink eraser nearby, because you are making your 12-week plan with the best information you have at the time, and I guarantee something will change or happen or come up or insert or whatever, and it's going to shift a little bit. That's okay, right? This is not like this, like so strict, rigid, I can't make anything change or whatever. God oftentimes rewrites the plan in ways that we didn't expect and gives us even more amazing results, right? But we have to have some kind of a map to follow to get started, right? In order to get there. And then the last part of the key 3 is the WAM, the weekly accountability meetings. This is where you get the support to stay on track and to adjust and adapt when life happens, because when we don't have those things, we are off in the weeds, right? So that is so, so important. And what I'm doing for the first time only is offering you guys a few different options for how you can come into CEO Focus. So if you are currently a CEO Focus client, this is for you as well, okay? So listen up. And if you are not yet, this is for you as well. If you want to make 2026 different than 2025, that CEO Focus is what you need. We all know that distraction is never going to get us anywhere. We need focus, right? And when you got these 3 things in place, you'll have that. What I'm starting to do, starting today, it's the first time I'm talking about this anywhere, so you guys are the first to hear. You can either pay monthly, $97 a month, or you can pay quarterly, $297, or you can pay annually, $997, which gives you 2 months free. And again, imagine having sustained focus over 12 months instead of just 12 weeks. So it will actually help to increase your results. Okay, so there are going to be 3 different ways that you can do it. When you go to redeemhertime.com/focus, those options are listed out there. When you go to the checkout, you can choose which one fits you best and go ahead and do that. So if you are already a CEO Focus client and you're like, oh my goodness, I want to keep doing this because I'm already seeing results and I'm already feeling the difference in the shift, you can go ahead and do the annual plan, and that will then again extend your access and give you those extra 2 months for free. Okay. Some of you who are in CEO Focus, you're ready to up level to CEO Impact because you're ready to go to the next level of your business growth. That's a conversation you and I can have. But if you're like, okay, I'm wanting to get off the hamster wheel, I'm wanting to create results, I'm wanting to create consistency, then that annual option would be perfect, whether you're coming in brand new or whether you're already in there. Okay. Now bonuses, because that's always fun. Let me find how to get over there. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I've been talking about these. Number 1, if you come on by Thursday night, you will get a growth map review. So I will then give you an opportunity to submit your 12-month growth map to me, and I will then go through it and give you that coaching feedback, right? I'm going to help you to refine your growth goals. I'm going to help you to strengthen your growth goals and your conviction about them. And I'm going to help you to actually see those goals happen, right? So that you are hitting every single God-given goal that you are called to set in 2026, okay? That value is $297. It's the price of the entire 12-week program, okay? All right. You also get access to that workshop next week. We are doing the Kingdom Vision Workshop Intensive. If you join by the 16th, then you get to come be a part of that, right? I am bringing in an expert. She has her own app. She has all of these other resources. And this is what she does. And I'm like, you would be perfect. This is the perfect time of year, and I need you to come in and do this for my CEO. So I'm super excited for you guys to get to meet her next week. But yeah, that will be a really great thing. We're going to start the work now, but we're really going to dive into that deeper with her next week. Okay, on Tuesday, that's happening. And then monthly in 2026, we have networking events that happen every single month. And we have CEO Edge book conversations, which is how we grow our mindset. And we're reading all biblically based books that have some kind of an impact on our faith, on our business, on our time. Those of you who are already in the book club, I showed you, gave you guys a preview last week of the 4 books that we're reading next year. We would run a book a quarter, so it's like 2 chapters for every 2 weeks. It's not hard. So anyway, those are some of the bonuses. It's over $1,000 in bonuses that you get when you join us. So the link there again is redeemhertime.com/focus. Right? And this is why I've shared so many testimonials with you today, and I'm going to share more with you when you guys come back, the next couple of days, because you could be the testimonial I share 12 weeks from now or 12 months from now. Okay? So what my goal is to, number one, help you get off the hamster wheel. I'm putting in all this effort and time and I'm not seeing results. I'm not getting anywhere. Okay? That I'm going to get you to the first phase of business growth, which is the rooted CEO. And then when you're ready, you can step up into some of my other programs. So we're going to help you now start creating the frameworks and then creating the profits inside your business, right? So you're going to start moving through the next phases of business growth. But we all have to start by getting off the hamster wheel, because you will never grow on a hamster wheel. Can I get an amen? You will never grow on a hamster wheel. Okay, so that is our goal inside CEO Focus. Within 12 weeks, we are getting you off the hamster wheel, and we're starting to get you rooted, not scattered, with your time and your focus, so that you are starting to see the growth happen. Okay, and then we'll start working on how do we start getting the fruit and stuff like that. All right, so tomorrow we are going to work on our 2026 CEO vision. Okay, day 2, make sure you're back here, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be working on your 2026 CEO vision. And then on day 3, we're going to work on our 2026 CEO planning. But what we've done today on day 1 is where your CEO growth actually begins. And it doesn't happen with more goals or shiny goals or better goals, right? Or a new vision board or whatever it is, even the Redeemer Time Planner, like that's going to help, but that's not where it starts. It starts with more CEO reflection, which includes listening to what the Lord wants to show you about 2025 before we move on to 2026. So I'm going to encourage you to take what we've done together today and take it to the Lord in your daily CEO meeting with God. Keep this conversation open over the next few weeks. Even as you go into a new year, it's never like, oh, well, it's 2026 now. I have to only look ahead. It's okay. CEOs are always checking the rearview mirror and then getting their focus going in front of them, right? So if we keep the conversation open and are asking him, he is always speaking. If we will slow down long enough to pause and listen, right? And I'm going to give you a challenge. Okay, you ready for a challenge? Write down one area that God is calling you to realign as you move forward. So as you look back, what is one area of your business that God is calling you to realign as you move forward into 2026? Okay, I want you to write that down right now. God might show you a couple more things later tonight. That's okay. Do it, because you're going to need that for tomorrow. Bring that back with you tomorrow. Okay? I would love to hear, before you leave today, what did you need to hear today? We did some CEO evaluation. We looked back today at 2025. What did you need to hear today? I'm going to remove me as a pin, so I'm not just looking at me. And I'm going to make us gallery view so I can see all of you guys. I would love to hear whether you want to drop it in the chat that it's okay to be a B. Yes, it is okay to be a B, as long as the reason why, Carolyn, is a God reason, right? Not just because I wasn't doing what I knew I was supposed to. If you want to unmute and give us a sentence or two about it, we'd love to hear that. Or you can drop it in the chat. What did you need to hear today? So glad I just received my new planner. Yay! And the planner is intentionally set up with a whole section in the beginning, as Michelle can attribute to, of getting you thinking, looking back and looking ahead before you start jumping in to fill in a calendar. And then every quarter, we have a seasonal reset where we're doing the same thing. That is so important that we regularly throughout the year look back and look ahead. I heard somebody chatting. Did somebody unmute Sandy?
I unmuted myself. Actually, I know I put A that I totally failed my goals because I didn't even really think I forgot my goals and what I had thought about. I pulled up my vision board that I had done last year, And I had it printed out, but I never put it up. And actually, yeah, no, I never put it up, of course, and then never looked at it. So I kind of was forgetting that, the income wasn't where I wanted to be, but I hit one goal milestone. But my other big thing was to build friendships.
Mm,
And it just, I head down work 24/7. And it's just like, you
mm.
got to build some friendships. And I actually had put myself out there and, just some people to meet some new people because it's really hard when you're working home all day to meet new
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And I actually held my second annual favorite things gift party on Saturday and had a
Yay.
pretty successful turnout. So for me, that's huge to
Mm.
be able to have people show up for
Yeah.
friends because I need the friends too.
Yeah. And you're
And
so
that's a
right,
big
Sandy.
goal.
It's not always the business goals. Sometimes it's the personal and life goals. And it's not
Uh-huh.
always the tangible goals. Sometimes it's the things that we can't really like quantify, right? And
I
so
can't measure. I want to make
yeah.
five new friends. I mean,
Right, exactly. But I love that, right? And so that's such a beautiful way to like think about your goals and go, okay, wait, I did hit some goals. But I will
Mhm.
say, I love how you brought this up, Sandy. Like the fact that the goal you set goals, but then they were out of sight, probably
Mhm.
contributed to the fact that you didn't get to that point that you wanted to be, which is doesn't mean anything bad about you, but it just tells you, well, how could
Mhm.
things change if I actually put it in front of me this year? And that's actually one of the things that I do is that I teach people when I teach them how to create their CEO vision, which is what we're doing tomorrow, to either put it in a visual, format like a vision board,
Mhm.
or to record it on an audio. And that is a
Um,
great thing. I listen to it in the mornings. So that
mhm.
it's like I'm hearing it spoken over me, and I go through these 8 different areas of my life. I teach 8 different areas of attention, and so like to hear that daily, like you're speaking it in first person, like it's already happened. It's just such a really cool experience, and then you're like, I'm like prayerfully listening to it as I'm thinking about like what am I doing today that is living the next piece of that out. So okay, let's see what's going on in the chat. We got lots of going on over here. Okay, some of my goals I set up to be dependent on activities I hate doing. Okay, so sometimes that makes it harder to reach a goal if we don't actually like the thing, but sometimes that's how we actually do the things we don't like is by setting the goal. So it could work either way for you. I'd be curious, Kathy, if that was a good thing for you or if that was a not good thing for you, and if you want to repeat that next year. Second year with a planner, ready to use it with intention this year. I love it, Maggie. Yes. The planner is intentionally set up to make you pause and reflect. And there are even at the end of each week, did you add to the monthly CEO praise report? How did you treasure your time this week? Every month, we do a planning call together. Every quarter, there are opportunities for you to plan out the next season. So, yeah, and it doesn't, just so you guys know, if you don't have the Redeem Her Time Planner, Johnny, if you can drop the link in the chat, it's just Redeem Her Time dash planner or forward backwards slash planner. It is undated. So you can start at any time, any day of the year. Okay. And I did that on purpose. All right. My goals and God's goals were a little different, and I was super discouraged until I reevaluated and saw that I was exceeding what I planned in just a very different way. That's why we do this process, right? Because sometimes it just feels like everything's a failure until we actually pause and look at it, right? I have friendship goals too. I love it. The goals missed aren't to shame us, but to help us refocus and correct the areas we need to recalibrate. I love it. I don't want to be a business owner, but a Christ empowered CEO. Yes, allowing God to reposition and pivot me to actually align with what He is calling. His calling is for me. That's so beautiful, Tiff. And lots of people are liking that. I love it. I love it. Good, good. Yeah. Oh, okay. Learning the biblical calendar with the planner. I love it. To look at what I have done, not just what I haven't done. Yes, yes. Okay. And I'm going to encourage you before I see you tomorrow, like keep this reflective spirit going. Okay. Because when you come to what we're going to do tomorrow, which is actually starting to write down some vision and goals for 2026, when you come with this reflective spirit where you're learning and growing from what the last year held or didn't hold, it is going to help you to set the God aligned level goals that are actually going to move your business forward. So I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes if anybody has any questions or things that they want some feedback on that you worked on today. I will hang out here for a few minutes. You're welcome just to unmute, and I'm here to coach you. If you need to go, then go, and we will see you guys here tomorrow. No questions?